All right, I'll do that tonight. Okay, we will get then underway. This is a review session, an optional review, but it's definitely beneficial where I will go over the guidelines for the final project and then also answer your questions. And then hopefully I have a teaching assistant helping me moderate and as this is really our last class, our actual last class, it will be in person, but optional attendance will be Tuesday, November 30th. And then you can attend whichever section you would like, the 4:30 section, the 6 o'clock section, or even the 7:30 section. So that's Tuesday, November 30th. If anybody here is from the Thursday section, though I already went over these guidelines in my last Thursday, my last sections 4 and 5, that last class will be Thursday, December 2nd. There's a 4:30 and then a 6 o'clock section. Now, in that last class, what I'll do is I'll cover the last major aspect of legal and ethical environment of business. And perhaps when you think about law, business law even, you probably have in mind, for example, I've updated the homepage of the course. There are already at least 18, if not more. That was as 9 o'clock this morning, 18 lawsuits against Travis Scott and the promoters of the Astro World. Even Drake, I think, got sued, and promoters of the Astro World concert, given the real tragic events. And that's going to be probably governed by the common law, the law of torts. I definitely foresee, just like the Mia Marcano case, I definitely foresee the imposition of legal liability. What's very likely to happen is these cases will probably settle out of court. Probably the Astro World promoters and probably the Arden Villas apartments, they may or may not have insurance policies that may or may not cover the damages that are being alleged in the lawsuit. I mean, real damages, you know what I mean? And so, I'll be following those cases and giving updates as we move on. But for now, what I want to do is, now that we have, pretty much who's going to be on, let's go ahead and jump into the final project. I'll go over the guidelines and then I'll open it up for questions and answers. And so for this, I'm going to do a screen share and I'm going to go into, okay, great. Go into the home page of the course, which is over here. I've already opened it up. As you can see, I've posted the 8 victims. There's a 9th victim, a 9-year-old who's in a serious coma. And, I don't know what to say. As a big fan of concerts myself, and, sporting events, there's clearly going to be legal liability. I'm surprised, frankly, that criminal charges haven't been brought yet. But probably that's a function. Let me just say this. Probably that's a function that Travis Scott is from Houston. So he's a beloved, native son, if you will, he's from the area. So that adds a little bit of complication to the case. You know what I mean? As you don't want to, the legal system, you really want to go over somebody who's from your own town, who is a major figure, but I would not be if eventually, that's what I'm really following, whether criminal charges will be brought here. And we'll see, actually, like I said, in the last class, civil and criminal cases. I may even refocus it, talk less about the Eduardo case, although I'll say a few things about that. That's not in the movie, that will surprise you. And focus more on the Astro World and Mia Marcano cases that are, involve young people. Mia Marcano involve our own, literally front yard, backyard, however you want to look at it. So I may reorient that class to talk about these cases that hit closer to home. I know. In fact, there's a couple of music concerts, festivals coming up here in Orlando, Central Florida. I know for a fact, some of you are going to be attending. So this will be of great interest to all of us. All right. But what I'm going to do is the guidelines for the final project. I think I'm recording. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll post a recording of this just for if you have a fellow classmate that can't make it. Um, as you can see, you can find the final project here. You can just click on it, which is what I will do. And then let me go ahead and make this a little bit larger so that it'll be easier to go over. And what I've done is, let me off the bat, let me just say I've decided to do something new here. You may have seen that although Florida apparently has the lowest COVID rates, we're still at a very high number relative to what we were, let's say in June, before the upsurge. And you may have heard that in some states like Colorado and California, numbers are going up. So I just thought, I just thought, what, we're not going to put anybody at risk with the testing center. It's already enough stress. So I have gone with a take home. That's why it's called a final project and not a final exam. I'll be updating the syllabus to reflect this as well. So this is something that you can work basically at home, remotely, with your fellow group members, as I'll explain in a moment. So this is a take home project. And frankly, I personally, with the take home project, it's, the amount of time that you may have studied for a final exam is the amount of time you'll put into the final project. But here you pretty much control your grade. You know what I mean? So as your grade will reflect the amount of time you put into the project responding, you'll see there's 10 parts to this, but each part is self-contained. And so in a way, this is a lot more favorable, from the student perspective. Also, let me just say before we jump in, the philosophy of this is that what I want you to have is something that you could potentially attach to your resume when you apply for a job. You can actually show, give you an advantage, show that you have, you can work in a group and have strong writing and editing skills. So the idea of this project is not just to wrap up the course, and help consolidate the knowledge. As you'll see, the 10 things I ask about, pretty much, you're just applying what I've done in the previous 5 classes. I know we have one more class left, but so I'll say a little bit about litigation when we get to that part of it, which is what the last class will be about. But so that's the idea here, that this is something you can actually use moving forward, either to, if you're interviewing for promotion at the place where you work now, or where you have an internship maybe lined up, or, in the future when you are, trying to get a job, sometimes, that can help you stand out, having that little extra. All right. So the final project is a research report. It's 5 to 10 pages. If it's single spaced, it'll be about 5 pages. It can, although you have up to 10. If it's double spaced, 10 pages max. As I explained, you can use whatever format you want. I'm not a real stickler about that, as long as you're consistent in your format, throughout the project. Also, as this is a group project, you'll also be submitting a PowerPoint presentation. Now, because of the large size of this class, we have 5, sections. I think last I checked, we have 902 students over, across 5 sections. We're not, we don't have, unless, we get the football stadium and a 24-hour, booking, we're not going to be able to actually present this. You know what I mean? That's the one unfortunate thing in a class of this size. But the idea is that, the preparation for it. That's one of the reasons why this is a group project. Now, as you can see, the who, I've already created the groups, and I have appointed randomly, through the Canvas function, a leader of each group. I've already seen by monitoring here, about 1/3 of the group leaders have already reached out to the other members. And so what you want to do, actually, let me do it right now. Let me see, if you want to find out what group you're in, it's a little bit convoluted. I'm going to be posting on the homepage of the course all of the groups. Let me go back into the, let me go into here where it says people. And what you're going to see is, if you want to look yourself up, you hit on this tab over here. You want to find out what group you're in. I can also help with this, but you can see that because we have 902 students, and because I've created groups of between 5 to 6 students, we have 178 groups overall. And so you'll find them here. If you go to People's and then click on this tab, you'll find it here. Now, I'm trying to figure out if there's a more user-friendly way. What I'm going to do is probably screenshots of all the groups, then I'll post it on the bottom of the homepage. Probably a faster way of looking it up. Even that is a little bit cumbersome. But these are the groups, and as you can see, each group has sort of a designated, Now that I'm perfectly fine if another member wants to be the leader of the group. You know what I mean? That I'm perfectly fine with that. But this is just for purposes of getting us started. So you've already been randomly assigned into a group. And the reason why I need to do that is because, with 902 students, it's manageable. So my teaching assistants and I will each grade about 60 of these, 59 to 60 of these. And so that's manageable. That's something we can grade, you know what I mean? Give, and meet our deadline for submitting the grade. So that's why we've created groups here. Also, I should say, it helps divide the labor. You know what I mean? You can divide the labor, you can divide the assignment, and then have the group leader, whether it's the one that was randomly created by Canvas, or whether it's the self-appointed, or the group decides who the new leader can put it all together, you know what I mean? And then, the deadline is going to be December 3rd, which is the day after the Friday of the last week of class. You know what I mean? So it's like, the idea here is twofold. This gives my teaching assistants and I sufficient time. Okay, I see I do have I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing. I have an unstable internet connection. Hopefully we won't get disconnected like we did last time we tried to do a Zoom. But if we do, I have a backup device there, so I'll use my backup device if we have to do that. But so you have the last Friday, that's the last day of classes technically, and the idea is you'll be done with it. I have plenty of time to grade this, and then you have time to focus on your final exams, for your other courses. That's really the idea there. Now, if for whatever reason, I'm going to be flexible here. If for whatever reason, you decide to work alone, which I strongly recommend against that, because if you work alone, this is going to be a real pain in the butt. This is a pretty substantial project. If you work alone, you're going to have to submit it to me by Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 11:59 p.m., right before midnight, so that I have time, because I have 902 students. So I have time to grade all of these, before the 178 other groups submit, on the last Friday of class. So that's the one trade-off. If you work alone, I'm going to allow that. That's perfectly fine. People have special circumstances. But if you work alone, and I'll say the one advantage of working alone is you get to pick then the company that you want to research. You know what I mean? There are two trade-offs here. There are two negative externalities here, or negative costs. One is you're going to have to do all the work yourself, which is fine if you're willing to do that. Hey, that's cool. But also you do have to turn that in early to me, to get full credit, so I have time enough to grade it. Just because I'm not doing it to be a jerk. You know what I mean? But I'm doing it because I need time enough to grade all of these things, so I apologize for that. But that's the thing there. And you see the information is there. The PowerPoint, it's up to 10 slides, one slide for each of the 10 things I'm asking for. And you decide what you want to put on the slide. All I'm asking is you have at least one image on each of your slides. The reason why I'm doing that is because I've gone to, like just last, like this semester alone, I've gone to like 4 conferences. I have one more this weekend, and a combination of in-person and Zoom. And I will tell you, most of the PowerPoints are terrible. You know what I mean? Garbage, actually, I would even say. But if you have an image, in your PowerPoint, that really helps set the tone, that helps capture the attention. We want to give you some experience, you're probably already familiar with, PowerPoint and doing a slide, but, now I'm not going to grade you. I'm just going to get it done and then you have the image. That's it. But, that's just something that I want to let you know. And then, like I say, with the report, will be just a written traditional report, you decide whatever format you want, whatever, font and whatever style, you know what I mean, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine as long as it's consistent. So now let's to the 10 aspects of the final project. It's basically 10 things. You'll have one slide for each of these things, and then, there'll be one part of possibly one page, of your final project, or half a page, depending on how extensive it is. Now, you'll notice a lot of this stuff will actually be very straightforward. Now, by the way, let me just tell you right now, all 10
Um, so I guess
picture there, picture of your fellow group members, and then the logo or
Professor,
yes.
You got kicked out for a little bit.
Oh, I did?
Yes, that was just me. Okay, yeah, it was you.
I did get an unstable internet connection. So what I'll do is I'll just start from the top in terms of the 10 things. Thank you for letting me know. Great. And by the way, thank you for joining us. I know it's a little bit, forgot to mention this I was out of state this weekend. Great. So let me just start from the top with the cover page. And as you can see, all the guidelines are pretty much here. You know what I mean? So with the cover page is just make sure that you identify your group members, include pictures. That helps it personalize when we're grading, and also the logo, the company's logo or name. And that goes to part two. Part two, again, very easy. Your group, or if you're working individually for whatever reason, you're going to pick a company you want to work on. Ideally, a Fortune 500. You can just Google that. You know what I mean? It's any of these big publicly traded companies, or you can even pick a Florida company, you know what I mean? Whether it's big or not. Now, I strongly recommend, because the rest of the things on this list, the bigger the company, the easier it is to do your research. You know what I mean? The easier it is to find information. Big publicly traded companies, those Fortune 500 companies, they have all this information out there. There's all of these news, Wall Street Journal and CNBC and, et cetera, reporting on these companies. So it's easier to find the information the larger the company. The smaller the company, I do recommend that maybe one member of the group be a liaison and maybe, email the company, maybe make a phone call. I have by the way, I want to say this right now. One of your sources can be somebody at the, it's reach out, it's just, that's how you network, that's how you reach out and get to know other people and get yourself known. So, there are different ways of doing the research, whether it be internet, whether it be, you want to go old school, like the professor and go to the library, go up to the, find the information there, or even to reach out to somebody at the company. The bigger the company, they'll have a media relations department or public relations or customer service where they might be able to hook you up with some information that now I'm going to be asking. Because as you can see, the rest, parts 3, and then as we get to the end, now are more substantive, where you want to this is why I do recommend you work in a group where you can divide this up among group members, as I've already randomly created. And then you just focus on your 2 things, probably if it's a 5-person group, each person can do 2 different things, or you can divide it differently, So management, who is the chief executive officer? And then figure out how long they have been in, power, so to speak. They have been in the CEO position. You may want to look up if it's a publicly traded company, tell them salary, you know what I mean? That's actually a required disclosure now under federal law. You also want to tell me the other members of the management team, and specifically, so the CFO, the COO, who's on that management team, you know what I mean? And then also specifically is there a chief legal officer? Some companies do have a chief legal officer. So let me give you an example how you can find this. Let's just go to Facebook. All right. So Facebook, Facebook now, what you want to do is type in the company you're looking for. This is actually this last module or the module we're in now. And type in the company's name, type in like corporate. Oh, now it's called Meta. I forgot. They changed the name. This is so annoying. I forgot about that. They changed it, a couple of weeks ago because probably a function of all the bad publicity they're getting. Let's see here. Let's see here if I can find. So they've changed this up just a little bit. Let me move this over here. Leadership and governance. This looks a little bit different now that they have switched it up. Let me just go back. It's called Meta. Let's go to the about. Yeah, this is completely new. So this is like I'm doing a new research thing. This is going to be more a view of the company. Alrighty, let's see here. Yeah, let me just go here, more results. Let's see what I can, let's see here. Get their mission statement. Let me see here, their privacy center. Yeah, this looks a little bit different from when I was here. Let me go to their homepage. This will be good, and this you'll be playing around with this. In a way, this is good that this is this way, so you can see sort of the struggle we have. Yeah, they've redesigned this. Let's see here, company information. It should be under leadership and governance. This is how they used to have, board of directors. Okay, let's see here. Let me go into management. All right, so now what's really cool about Facebook, for example, and like I said, the larger the company, the easier it is to find this information. Like they'll tell you, you know what I mean? Of course, we know Zuckerberg is the chief CEO, you may already be aware that Sheryl Sandberg is COO number 2 at the company. And what you may not be aware of some of these other people that are, executives or managers at the company, including their like chief financial officer and the chief technology officer. They have a product officer here, a business officer. And I always like to point out Jennifer Newstich was actually a classmate of mine at Yale, and she's the chief legal officer. And so this is what you're going to try with the company that that's part number 3. It should be straightforward, you know what I mean? You want to just find the corporate governance, management, the name of the company, and Google should be able to give you that information. Or you can reach out to the company itself and get the information that way. Choice of business entity. This is what we're doing now in module 5. How is the company organized? Now, if it's a big publicly traded company, more likely than not, it's going to be a Delaware corporation, you know what I mean? But smaller companies might be limited liability companies, you know what I mean? Or if you choose an even smaller company, it might even be a partnership or even a sole proprietorship, possibly, one of the things we saw in module 5 in the survey is that most companies are actually sole proprietorships, but the larger companies tend to be corporations, and they tend to choose Delaware as their home state of incorporation. Why did the company choose this type of entity? Again, this is module 5. Most likely, if it's a corporate, right, you can sell shares to the public, via secondary market. So, it's a way of raising capital, you know what I mean? Also, whether it's a corporation or even a limited liability company, right? You want to give the investors or the owners of the company, the shareholders, if you will, or if it's an LLC, the members of the LLC, you want to give them the protection of limited liability. So think of Travis Scott, right? And Drake. They're going to be sued for the Astro World tragedy. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, and those are both wealthy, artists, right? But I'm presuming, right, they do their business in probably under a as an LLC maybe a privately held corporation, and so it's the company that's going to be sued, you know what I mean, and not the individual who owns the company. This is interesting. Maybe the artists aren't. Maybe they're going to be personally sued and they're going to be personally exposed. That will be very, that's something that we'll have to see. By the way, going to choice of company number 2, be creative. Have fun with it. You know what I mean? The thing about business is every single product and service that we use and enjoy is put out by a business, so be creative. If entertainment industry, you can do the music industry, Sony Records or whatever, Sony Entertainment, the movie industry, Warner Brothers, you know what I mean? Columbia Pictures, Universal, sports, you know what I mean? Whether it be pro football or, hockey, the league, the association, NBA, you know what I mean? Major League Baseball, you can pick a team, Tampa Bay Rays, whatever. Be creative. You can pick a more traditional business. A lot of students often end up doing Disney or, something like that. That's perfectly fine. But pick a company that, really the group will decide that, will be interesting, that you're actually curious about these kind of things. So you can have a lot of fun with that. Again, the larger the company, the more high profile, the easier it will be for you to find all this information. One of the other things is the advantages and disadvantages. That's going to be my class, my recorded lecture in module 5. I talk about that for each of the different ways of doing business. And then finally, it's most likely going to be a Delaware corporation. But there are some big companies that are not incorporated in Delaware. Like a very, a really good example would be Apple Computers. They are actually incorporated in California, where their main offices are. The new that round building that they have in Silicon Valley. So it's but most companies like Facebook and like I talk about in the lecture are in almost every industry choose Delaware for the reasons why I talk about in my lecture. Okay, part 5 is going to be IP, or intellectual property, the law of ideas. This will be what we did in module 4. But here there's a lot of room of maneuvering. You just tell me what you think the company's most important IP is. The reason why this is important is because this is what really separates successful companies from companies that, don't grow. Successful companies own, create, license, buy, sell intellectual property. So you're going to tell me that just specify what it is. If it's Google, maybe it's a trade secret, right? Maybe it's the PageRank algorithm. It began as a patent, as I explained in my lecture, for module 4, pre-recorded lecture. But now they, all the modifications and improvements they've done to the PageRank algorithm, to Google search, if you will, are basically protected by trade secret. Maybe it's a trademark. Maybe it's the company's logo. Most of the time, that is the company's most valuable trademark. Most valuable intellectual property. It's trademark, it's logo, it's brand name. The other possibility could be, if you're in the entertainment industry, movies and music and stuff like that. Publishing industry, by the way, it's going to be probably copyrights. You know what I mean? And then finally, of course, you have patents for these big, like pharmaceutical companies. Sometimes companies, even Apple, they have a lot of patents, that are, of course, very valuable. So there you want to just do a little research. Again, the larger the company, the easier it is to find it. You know what I mean? How, when did it acquire the intellectual property? When did it create it? When did it create or buy it? And also, I'm sorry, when and how, so, how long, like an Apple, for example, I believe I have in module 4, the trademark application, the trademark registration for Apple, the Apple logo, which was 1979, or 78, around there. So that give you an example, you can Google all that stuff and you'll be able to find it. And really, really important. That's why I say, that's, to me, it's the most important side of the business, it's intellectual property. By the way, as a timeout, one of the things I like about the social network and focusing on Facebook, or, Meta, as it's called, is that they began stealing intellectual property, right? They basically stole the idea for Zuckerberg stole the idea for Facebook from the Winklevoss twins, or at least for the idea of having a social network with, you know, the Harvard EDU email. Oh, all right. I don't know what happened there. I got a little, I didn't do that. Okay, part 6. So now we're halfway through. Contracts. Company, this goes back to the common law, you know what I mean? The idea of when is a promise legally enforced. But every business, small and large, is built on contracts, is built on a set of promises, with customers, suppliers, employee agreements as well, so contracts are really important. So what you'll do is you'll tell me what you think the most important contract the company has. It could be maybe a merger agreement. Okay, I'm getting the unstable internet connection. So let me, although I have all the bars, I have my backup device handy just in case. But contracts, what's the, let's say I'm doing Facebook or a company that's, like a big tech company. I would probably say that the terms of use or terms of service, that all the users have to click on in order to use the service, to use the website. Probably, I would argue that's the most important contract. But, again, you can use your discretion. Again, you're going to do research about that. Who are the parties to the contract? Who's the other party? Of course, the company itself will be one of the parties. Just give me the main terms, or a summary of the agreement, and
What is the consent to
litigation risk.
you froze again?
Oh, I did freeze. Okay. Yeah, that was when I got the unstable internet connection. Thankfully, though, the connection is still there, so I'll back up. I was talking about contracts. You just tell me. I'm not judging you on what you tell me. I'm just judging, do you get this done? You tell me, or the group tells me what they think the most important contract is, and then just give me a summary of the contract. Who are the parties? What are the main terms? What does the contract specifically? What problem? What practical problem does the contract solve? It could be an employee agreement, a supply agreement, terms of service. The basic idea, I can tell you right now, is that contracts help you. This gets us to Section 7. They help you minimize litigation risk, or the risk of a lawsuit. If something does go wrong in the contractual relationship, the parties will know where they stand and they can avoid lawsuits. You know what I mean? And so that's part 7. So part 7 is litigation risk, and they're very flexible. You just tell me what the most important lawsuit is that the company has ever been involved in, past, present, or if you want to look in the future, future litigation risk, you tell me the future. So you get to choose, what you think the most important lawsuit, you know what I mean, is that the company is involved in, or has been involved in, or might be involved in the future. Hint, go back to part 6 and part 5. A lot of times, lawsuits either are about infringement of trademarks or patents, or copyright, or misappropriation of trade secret. It's about theft of ideas, or it's about breach of contract. You promised something and you didn't live up to your word. That's usually that's 2 big areas why people sue each other. Just so you can tie in 7. It's a separate section, but you can tie in 7 with either 5 or 6. That's usually going to be the case. Contracts will get broken, intellectual property will get stolen. You know what I mean? And so that's usually a fertile ground for lawsuits. Also, you'll tell me what type of legal liability it is. Is it a civil case, or is it criminal? Now, I won't talk about that until the last class, but that's pretty basic, you know what I mean? Whereas a criminal case, I'll just tell you now, right, is brought by the government, by the district state attorney, right, if it's in Florida, or by the United States attorney if it's a federal criminal case. Whereas a civil case, now a civil case can be brought by the government, but in a civil case, it's usually brought by a private party, and all you're asking for most of the time is just money damages. You want to get compensated. So civil cases like John Morgan and Dan Newland suing somebody, Then you'll tell me, this is important, is it the plaintiff or the defendant? Are they the ones who are initiating the lawsuit, or are they defending the lawsuit? Right now, I'm following a really interesting lawsuit. Pearson, the big textbook company, in September, at the end of September, they brought a lawsuit against Chegg. This is what I'll be presenting actually this week in Savannah, Georgia. There's a big lawsuit between two big companies. Chegg is a Delaware company, but it's based in New Jersey. So New Jersey has offices in New Jersey. I'm sorry, Pearson has offices in New Jersey, and Chegg is a California company, Santa Clara, where Facebook and Google are, and so they're being sued, and it's in New Jersey federal court, for example. So I'm following that case very closely. And then you tell me, I talked a little bit about this at the end of module 4, the pre-recorded lecture. But is the case going to settle or go or go to trial? You tell me what's most likely to happen, or if it's a case in the past, did the case go to the jury or did it settle out of court like the Facebook cases in the movie The Social Network? Most business disputes do settle out of court, but not all, right? Some of the cases do end up going to a jury and maybe even going on to appeal, and in a few cases going up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, 8, existing or pending legislation. Here you need to do a little bit of research, but when we talk about the law, we're not just talking about court decisions. We're also talking about statutes and regulations. So you'll just tell me, what is the one law or the one regulation that's most relevant to the business? You know what I mean? And then you'll also tell me if the company is involved in any lobbying efforts, to either change, amend, modify, or enact a new law. You know what I mean? So again, the larger the company, the easier it is to find out this information. It just goes to show you that the companies are not just reacting to the law, you know what I mean, and to lawsuits, but they're also sometimes trying to change the law. Disney is a really good example of this with the Sonny Bono Copyright Extension Act. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Disney. I'm going to be honest with you. They lobbied Congress back in 1995 to get the copyrights extended to 95 years, for business owners. And, that's just ridiculous. You don't have to have a copyright for 95 years. When the first Congress enacted the first copyright statute, it was like 20 years, it's just insane, but that was in large part a product of Disney's and other companies' lobbying efforts, companies in the entertainment industry. Part 9, which is the next to last part, is ethics. And ethics is just about, there's 3 parts here. This is there's actually in module 5, I do talk about business ethics and the stakeholder model. And so who are the main stakeholders? Basically it's going to be the customers, the employees, possibly suppliers, but who else? Who are the main stakeholders? Who, interest groups or groups of people who are, interact with the company or are affected by the company's decisions. So stakeholders. Part 2 is just to see if the company is for real or not. Do they do anything to take into account stakeholders when they make decisions? I can tell you right now, if you've seen my pre-recorded lecture for module 5, not a single Fortune 500 company has corporate stakeholder on their board, and they don't have any employees or any customers. It's all basically cheap talk, in my opinion. I'm so underwhelmed by the stakeholder model. But at the same time, I will tell you maybe ways the company might take into account stakeholder input. You know what I mean? I'll tell you, actually, Facebook is actually very good about this. When they were creating their new oversight board, sort of like it's called often the Facebook Supreme Court, they actually got a lot of input from the public and from professors like me in designing the new oversight board. And so, sometimes companies have other mechanisms for getting input, or a lot of times it's just for show, and then finally provide an example, right, of an ethical dilemma the company faced and how they resolved it. You know what I mean? Again, it's a company for real. We can we want, but to me, ethics confronting a moral dilemma and then making a decision, right? Now from a part module 2, I talk about different theories of ethics. You don't have to bring that into bear, But when I talk about ethics, actually people disagree about what's right and wrong. So I'm not saying that you agree with what the company did or how they resolved the dilemma, but you tell me how the company dealt with it, and if you feel it's consistent with your view of ethics. But there's many different theories of ethics. Finally, part 10. Part 10 is fairly straightforward, just your bibliography. And again, I don't care whatever format you want to use. This is not, we're not I was Spanish literature major, so I had to do the MLA, Modern Language Association citation style. When I went to Yale Law School, we had to use something called the Blue Book, a different citation style. But I frankly don't give a damn what citation style you use, you know what I mean? As long as you're consistent. Most of the time, your style we refer to, if you do make a phone call to somebody at the company, or if you do send out an email and get a response, you just put, email correspondence or personal conversation via the phone, you know what I mean? With the person you spoke to or the person who responded to your email. If you use a Wikipedia, it's perfectly fine. If you go to the company's own website, perfectly fine. If you use the Wall Street library, a book at the library, you know what I mean? That's perfectly fine. And you cite it however you want. So I'm not a stickler for that. Those are just academics that have nothing better to do. As long as you're just consistent with your citation style, as long as it's there. I don't care how you do it, as long as it's there. The reason why that's important, though, is you always want to cite your source. It's actually very important.
Very important to cite your sources. Yeah, I'll just remember that for when he's
Crowdsourced, it's probably right.
So you froze again on the part where you were saying it's very important to cite your sources.
Oh yes, I saw that guy. My third unstable connection, actually. So that's the 3 times I froze. Fortunately, we're still online, so we're good. So yeah, I was just saying that the reason why it's important to cite your sources is because then it allows the reader to judge the credibility of your argument. That's it. So if you cite a company website, if you cite Wikipedia, if you cite, personal conversation, okay, I know where you got the information from. That's all it is. Now, in the academic setting, it's also, relevant to academic integrity. Like, it's perfectly fine. Like, I don't mind if you, copy, I don't mind if you get the information from the company, just put it in your bibliography. That's perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Perfectly fine. Now, the submission guidelines, I already talked about the deadlines. If you work individually, for any reason, or if you work in then on your own, then you got to submit by it's going to be November 24th, which is Wednesday before Thanksgiving. If you work, as you're supposed to in a group, although I'm flexible, if you want to work alone, if you work in a group, you'll have until the last day of class, December 3rd. What this means is this gives me about 10 days, to grade all of these. I will grade all of these by, I believe grades are due December 15th. So my goal is to grade everything by December 12th. And then, which is a Monday, post the grades on web courses. You can double check that we didn't make any mistakes, that we included all your points. And then I'll submit the grades on the very last day, which is Wednesday, December 15th. And so, to the registrar, once you get at least a 48-hour period, that's what we're going to be doing. That's why, we have to do this and then you have time to focus on your other exams after December 3rd. Now, I've never done this before, like in a group, assignment. So my understanding is, and this, because this may be a question, let me go ahead and end the screen share now, is I'm not sure. Normally, when I do these type of things, I have every member of the group submit their project. I'm going to double check. I just wrote to the Center for Distributed Learning. I'm waiting to hear back. I don't know if just the group leader submits the project for the entire group. Another issue I've seen in the emails is that, if somebody in your group is not participating, that's perfectly fine. Just don't put them on the cover page, because that's why you want to have every member of your group who participated on the cover page, both their picture and name, so that, if somebody did not participate, then, don't put them on the cover page. And then obviously they won't be part of, here's the deal. That won't affect the group grade, you know what I mean? But it will affect the student who did not participate in the group. So my philosophy is, I'm saying each of these groups have between 5 to 6 members. That's the way that kind of, the way Canvas set it up. And, it's possible 1 to 2, maybe even 3, if people don't respond or whatever reason, then that could be for a number of reasons. Some people have dropped the course. This used to be, over 1,000 students. So it's not unlikely that you'll have one person that doesn't respond, that's perfectly fine. But you may have a person that doesn't respond because they're responsible, wait till the last minute, you know what I'm saying? And that's perfectly fine. The group as a majority will decide, who goes on that cover page, who did the work. And those are the ones who are going to get graded and get full credit. So a group is not going to be, as long as the group does the work, whoever the members are, they will get full credit. Now, what I want to do is at this point in time, is you go ahead and open it up to questions, and comments and, concerns, because there may be something that, on my end, I'm not seeing from the student perspective. And I do believe Shania is moderating the chat. So thank you, I should say, is moderating the chat. And so she's helping me on that end. But anybody have any, questions, comments, or concerns, just unmute your mic and jump in here. Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to let you know there was some emails where I guess students' whole groups like weren't responding.
Yes.
They had screenshots of that situation. So in that case, are they working individually, or how do you?
Yes, good point. Yeah, and I have seen a couple of those emails that, and I've responded to a couple. And so, but let me tell you, that's actually a good point. That's going to be the main issue here. A class of this size, unfortunately, it's gonna, with so many groups, that's always a possibility. What happens is, so if that does occur, if you have a group member or 2 or however many that are non-responsive, you know what I mean? You can still work as a group. I still want you to be able to divide the work. Originally, this project is really designed for 3 people. You know what I mean? That would be the ideal number, because with three people, very hard for anybody to shirk. You know what I mean? The problem is that, I need larger groups. I can grade all of these. And also, there are lots of students whose names still appear, but they are no longer in the course. They've dropped out. So, 2 persons, that's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? But however large or small your group is, you know what I mean? If somebody is not like responding to the group member or not participating or didn't do their part, then the rest of the members could just, or whoever the group leader is, could just exclude that person. That's perfectly fine. Send us an email if you want, you know what I'm saying? But exclude the person from the cover page. And we'll only grade those people who actually participated in the group project. So that, and by the way, some people may want to work alone and maybe they don't notify the other group members, that can also be. So, don't worry about it. Probably there's going to be at least one person in each group that may not, again, I recommend you do work in a group, because if I'm a student, I'd rather just do, 2 of the things on the 10-point list than have to do all 10 of them myself, plus the PowerPoint, Now the PowerPoint is just sort of the afterthought, right? The main thing is the written report. And then the PowerPoint is just, if you were to present it, how do you summarize the information, from each of the 10 things? So you really do want to work in a group to, minimize your workload. Yes.
Hello, Professor. I was wondering, so for the PowerPoints, they don't have to be a minimum word count, right? It's just like those are just to summarize the key points of like whatever your report is.
Exactly, and let me tell you, like if you didn't want to do an image, it's perfectly fine, just an image, or just no word count for the just to have at least the 10 slides, 1 for each of the 10 parts. Most likely you may want to put a title, you may want to put a couple of words, summarizing, what I mean? The PowerPoint is just, here's the deal, with PowerPoints are terrible. In fact, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he's completely banned PowerPoints at the management level, if you work for Jeff Bezos, he doesn't want to see a PowerPoint, because PowerPoints, they basically stifle discussion. But nonetheless, most people, and most even in academia, everybody's using PowerPoints. And so I'm perfectly fine. You just have 1 picture on each of your slides, you know what I mean? And maybe a title, but it's totally discretionary, no word count for the PowerPoints, either minimum or maximum. So that's just your discretion. What I like about PowerPoint are the pictures, like when I go to see somebody's talk and they have a picture there, I love that, because that grabs my attention, and then I like when the speaker uses the picture as a way of then, okay, let me summarize the information that paper, you know what I mean, or that's in my report, you know. So yeah, total flexibility with the PowerPoint.
Cool. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. And the idea there, again, my philosophy behind this entire thing is that, you know, when you do go to an interview, that you'll be able, you know, UCF is very strong in the, you know, I think we have a new data analytics, for example, and we have quantitative methods, very strong. And that's actually very important stuff. But what you want to be able to do to distinguish yourself is say, okay, but I'm also, you know, have experience, in this case, preparing a presentation. Maybe one of your smaller courses, you gave a presentation, and now you can talk about your method. You know, like, you know, I'm like my professor. I like to do a picture prop. You know, but you know, I've done this before. You know, and I feel comfortable not just working on my own. I can work in a group. I can tell you right now, that's the other reason why I do this. Any company you work for, and this is, you know, even a small startup, you're going to be working in groups, and it's very important at some point in your interview, you know, screening interview, and if you're invited to the company for a final interview, that you be able to emphasize that you're comfortable working in a group. And can you imagine you go into a job interview and you're not just talking about it, you show it. Here's my group project that I did in, you know, BUL, you know, 3130, you know, and boom, you can see for yourself that how good it is. You know what I'm saying? Vetted by the professor, you know what I mean? I can work in a group, and here's proof that I can do that. You know, I'm telling you, you know, that's the other reason why I do recommend it, as that is the trend, you know, in most, you know, most companies where you'll be starting out at.
So I think one more question.
Yeah.
So when we're submitting our group thing,
Mhm.
will we have to submit the question templates as well, or just the answers?
No, just the answers. Now, a good idea is, yeah, you know, you may want to do a you know, the 10-part template, you know what I mean? But you don't have to submit the template, you know what I mean? Just have the answers for each of the 10 parts, or, you know, each of the 10 parts of the template, you know, in your report. And the way it works is, you notice you just upload it. I think, you know, so it's not like a discussion post like we've been doing up to now. We just reply. I think now you just upload it. And what I need to double check is if the group leader uploads it for the entire group, or if you know, everybody has the option of uploading. I prefer that everybody just upload, you know what I mean? But I'm going to double check that, because if it's the group leader, then, you know, that's fine as well. And then and like I say, you know, I'll only grade those group members who participated. You know, I'm not going to hurt the group grade if, you know what I mean, you know, if the other group members did the work. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, good. I'm going to close this now. Next Tuesday, what I'm going to do is we'll do office hours. So if you have specific questions, Thursday's a holiday. So that's why I did last Thursday. I did with the previous, you know, with my other Thursday sections. Next Tuesday, at our regular 4:30 and 6 p.m. class times, you know, for these two sections 1 and 2, I'll just do continuous office hours where you can come to me at any point in time and any specific questions you have as you get started, you know. But there's plenty of time to do this, right? It's now what, November 8th, I think today, November 9, I'm sorry. And so you have until December 3rd. So still plenty of time, you know, if you divide it up. So good luck to you all. I think you'll find that this assignment will do two things. Pedagogically speaking, one thing, you consolidate everything we've learned in the course by applying it to a company of your group's choice. But number two, it's something you can use to further your career, you know, to show that you're able to work in a group, to show that you have based understanding of you know, a company, you know, at the broadest levels, and then also, you know, to further your own career goals as you move forward. So perfectly, we'll you know, have office hours next Tuesday and the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Also, we'll have our last class on Tuesday, November 30th. I'll go over how lawsuits work, and I think that's it. So good luck to you all. If I don't see you at office hours, you know, have a wonderful, safe, happy, excellent Thanksgiving, and take care, and have a great rest of your evening.
Professor, can you stay on for a second?
Yes.
Okay. Slowly but surely.
Now, some people might still be on because they step away, you know, they just have it on. Oh, by the way, let me end the recording. Hold on, give me 1 second here. Stop recording, okay.